Hello, everyone. Hello, hi. Hello, everyone. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Hello. I hope everyone's doing well. It's great to be with you all here today. All right, I'm excited to see everyone. So, if you can see me or if you can hear me, please type in the chat. Let me know you're out there. Let me know where you're from. I would love to know. I was thinking, I want to know, what is your favorite dessert? What is your favorite dessert to eat? I really enjoy eating ice cream. That is my favorite dessert. I love ice cream. What is yours? What's your favorite dessert? Where are you from? All right, let's see who we have here today. All right, we got some people from Ireland. Great. Sri Lanka. Hello. Brazil. Wonderful. All right, it's great to see everyone here today. I hope you're all doing well. It is a nice morning here in the United States where I am. It's pretty early. It's about 9 a.m. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, we have brownies are your favorite. I love brownies. That's great. We have Sri Lanka. Wonderful. All right, hello from India. Great. I love seeing everyone from all over the world, coming here together and learning a little bit about English. It's great. All right. We have Turkey. Great. Pakistan. Wonderful. South Korea, but live in Alberta. That's great. Canada. Excellent. All right. Hello from Nepal. Wonderful. It's great to see everyone here today. We have people from all over the world. That's wonderful. All right. We'll wait just a couple. We'll just wait a minute or two more to let some more people join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Hello from Somalia. Hello. That's exciting. Let's see. All right. Oh no. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully you can find a little joy today and some English lessons. All right. All right. Hello from Sweden. Excellent. Oh, great. All right. Well, it is great to see everyone here today. Hello, Brazil. All right. So, ice cream aside, my name is tutor or teacher Greg. I'm a tutor here on Cambly. I've done many of these live lessons, and I am excited to do another one here today for all of you. So today, we are going to talk about business English, but we're going to specifically focus on the writing aspect. So a couple of weeks ago, I did a different lesson on business English and talking about the professionalism in speaking and everything about kind of how you conduct yourself in business. So if you'd like to watch that one, you can go ahead and go to the Cambly YouTube channel, and we can and that video is all loaded there. And we have lots of other videos uploaded for pretty much every topic we could think of to cover, and we're still doing more every single week, just like this video. So if you are late to this video, or if you have to leave and you want to go back and rewatch it, this will be posted to the Cambly YouTube channel directly after the video is ended. So do not fret if you have to leave early. You will be able to rewatch the video. So it is great to see you all here today. I'm very excited. I'm going to move this a little bit closer here today. All right, there we go. Let's make sure we can all see this. So when talking about business writing, so there's a very specific type of way that we write in English that we make sure, especially in our business way, right? So we have two different kinds, right? There's literary writing, and then there's business writing. So a lot of what we talk about when we talk about writing is literary writing. So this is, much more, it's eloquent, it uses big words, tells a story, right? We think about books, we think about fiction. This is our type of literary writing. So I also wanted to highlight the word eloquent here, because that's a bit more of a higher vocabulary word. So eloquent means something that sounds very nice, something that sounds pretty and well written. That's eloquent. So literary writing can be said to be eloquent, okay? However, business writing, on the other hand, the goal is to convey information quickly with very few words, and it's going to be direct and formal. Okay, we want to make sure that we're not adding in extra words. We want to be as to the point as possible. Unlike literary writing, where we want to make it sound pretty. We want it to make it flow. That's not what we're looking for in business writing. We're looking for concise statements because the person you're writing for, right, does not want to read a lot of words. We want to read as few words as possible, especially at work. We're busy. We want to go, leave work and go do the other fun things that we have going on in our lives. So that's why we want to keep it short and concise. So that's what we're looking for when we talk about business writing versus literary writing. Okay? So there are three main types of business writing that we do. There's the formal work product, which are the things that you're going to turn into your boss or you're going to provide to a customer. This is your formal work product. Then there's email, which is both general email and formal email. And email is by far the most common way we're going to communicate, right? A lot of us are in business, and we notice that we use emails to communicate just about everything, unless we're doing our formal work product. And then there's also chat applications, especially in business English, and I'm sure all over the world, a lot of people use chat applications, right? Slack, Jabber, Teams. How many on here have used Jabber or Slack or Teams? How many have used the chat applications before? Does anyone out there use these chat applications? I know personally I've used Slack a lot. Let's see. Does anyone else have any chat applications that they use? Let's see. Teams, excellent. So that people have Teams at work. Very good. All right. Yeah. So those are very popular. They're very popular to use these different types of chat applications. Teams. All right. All right. So for those of you who have not used these before, they are just different ways that you can type and talk with your colleagues and the people you work with to convey information for each other. But it's generally very informal, right? It's informal conversation. You're not going to be doing too much actual, right? Here's you're not going to be giving work product over that, right? Sometimes you talk with your boss at a time. Okay, so let's talk about some of the do's and don'ts we do with business English, especially in our writing. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we know our audience, right? In business English, it's very important to know who are you talking to, right? Who are you talking to and why? Okay, so you want to know the type of information you're conveying, right? Are you writing a memo? Are you writing a letter? Are you writing an email, right? This is really important to know who your audience is, right? Who is the person? Are you writing it to your boss? Are you writing it to your coworker, right? Is this an internal message or is this an external message? Okay, so that's very important because you want to know who you're writing to influences how you write, right? We also want to know, are we writing persuasively or are we writing informative? Okay, so it's going to be different. If you're writing persuasively, you're going to make sure that you're writing to convince someone of your topic, right? That's going to be a different style of writing than it is to be informative. Informative, you're just letting them know information about whatever it is, the topic that you're writing on, right? And this will change a lot just depending on who or what you're writing for and what your job is, right? An engineer is going to write very differently than an attorney. So, yes. So these should not be used in exams. No, that's a great question. No, so this is not exam writing. This is just more for your everyday business writing, especially if you're working with American people, American colleagues. So know your topic, right? You want to be clear with what you're writing about and why you're writing it, right? You want to be very quick and clear about that because people don't have a lot of time. And if you're not clear with what you're going to write, often people will stop reading it. And you want to make sure that they read all the way through what it is you're writing and you're very clear about it. You don't want any confusion or to be hiding anything. A very common business term is called hiding the ball. And you don't want to do that. You want to be very clear with what you're talking about. All right. And you want to be concise, okay? You want to make sure when you're writing, you're very concise about what it is that you're writing about, right? That kind of goes back to knowing your topic, right? Knowing your audience, being very concise and making sure that you're not, wandering through what your actual writing is going to be, okay? You want to make it easy to read. Format is very important for business writing, especially for a lot of English business writing, right? You may have very specific types of format that people are using depending on what it is that you're writing. And we'll go through some email formats a little bit later because that's the most common and easiest to talk about because it's hard to say we don't know. It's hard to say whether depending on what your job is, the different types of writings like memos and blue sheets and things like that. So, is there a problem? Can we hear me? Everyone can still hear me? Let's see. I see there might be some problems with the voice. Can everyone still hear me? All right. Excellent. Okay, good. You can still hear me. That's great. Okay. So we'll keep going here. So then last and most important thing about business English is proofread, okay? Proofreading is very important. Grammar mistakes, punctuation, spelling, those are really important to make sure we avoid those because that is one of the number one way that people will discredit, right? They will read your information and think that it is, potentially wrong, or they won't think that it is as important as it is if there are no mistakes. So that is the number one thing all through school. Every time I work, make sure you proofread, right? Have your grammar right, your punctuation right, and your spelling right. An important thing that I always do whenever, and this goes for exams as well, if you are writing it, save time at the end after it's done written to go back through and reread everything and make sure that you have the right punctuation, spelling, and grammar, okay? Because that's one of the things that a lot of people overlook because they've written it and it's done and they don't think anything more about it. But you need to make sure that you do. Okay, so some don'ts. Some of the don'ts that we do in business English, all right? We want to avoid figurative language, right? We don't want to use metaphors or similes or scene setting, right? Those are really nice when we're reading or when we're writing a book or a short story, right? But not for business English. So for example, if we were to write, our third quarter profits are as steady as the flowing river, right? When we write this in an email to our colleague, it sounds very nice, right? It sounds very nice. However, we don't want to add things like that because it's not direct, right? We're not conveying the message as quickly as possible. So instead, we would want to say something like, third quarter profits were steady, right? We just want to say exactly what it is. Third quarter profits were steady. We don't want to add in, right, a simile like the flowing river, right? That's good. That's exactly what we want to do. Keep it very steady, right? Third quarter profits were steady. Very good. Okay. So another thing we want to do is we want to avoid passive voice. So we talked before, right? So Tutor Nicole had a whole lesson on passive voice and active voice. And we want to make sure we avoid that, right? It's not direct. It sounds less confident. So when you use passive voice in your writing, it makes it sound like you're pushing off, right, whatever type of responsibility it is. So we want to make sure we're not using passive voice. So for example, right, we can say, the budget was overrun in September by the engineering team, okay? The budget was overrun in September by the engineering team. So this is passive voice, right? Because we have the subject, right, of the action first, and then we have the subject who's doing the action last. So we want to switch that, right? We want to switch that, and we want to say, the engineering team overran in September, right? The engineering team overran in September. That is how we want to do our active voice, right? The engineering team's doing the action and it's happening, right? We're overrunning it. So that's how we wanted to make sure we're writing. Very direct, very active voice because it makes us seem more confident and it makes us seem like we know what we're talking about because we do, right? When you're writing something, you do know what you're talking about. So that's very good. All right, we have a question here. So contractions. So there is not a problem with contractions. You can use them in emails. Usually when you're using your work product, it depends on what you're writing for, but contractions are not a problem generally to write, especially in your emails, because usually emails are a little less formal than your work product, although sometimes an email will be your work product. So I think you're okay to use contractions. It's more formal to not use them. So you will never have an issue if you don't use a contraction. So when in doubt, I would say don't use them. But if you know that it's not a problem, then that shouldn't be a problem. For like a lot of technical writing, or if you're doing any type of like writing for universities or research, those are not, you don't use contractions for that. So if you're writing a contract, you don't use contractions. So good question, very good question. Okay, so another thing we want to avoid is long run-on sentences. Okay, long run-on sentences, right, where we don't have our punctuation, we want to avoid that. So for example, right, I have thought long and hard about our marketing strategy, and I feel as though we should move to target a more youthful audience. Okay, so I have thought long and hard. This is a very long sentence, right? There's no punctuation in here. This is not the type of writing that you want to do. You want to make this much shorter and much more to the point, right? It doesn't really matter how long you thought about it, right? It doesn't really matter, like, whether we have a more, right, you feel as though it doesn't matter whether you feel that or whether you think about that, right? We want to take thoughts and feelings out of business writing, right? We want to make this more direct and say, right, we should pivot our marketing strategy to target a younger audience, right? It's direct, it's to the point. You don't want to think about what you're feeling. You don't want to think about, what are we thinking about? We want to be direct, right? We should pivot our marketing strategy to target a younger audience. It's much more direct and it's much more to the point. And that is the type of writing that we're looking to do in business writing. Okay? Very good. All right. So another thing we want to avoid, right, is industry jargon. Okay? And jargon, I don't know if we've heard that word before, but jargon, those are words used in a specific industry or in a specific department of a company. Okay, that's jargon. And it depends on where you're working and what you're doing as to what type of jargon that you use. So often we're talking about acronyms or we're talking about technical words. So something in email, right, like send that back to me ASAP, right? Well, we don't want to use acronyms as much, especially in more formal writing. We want to say something like, could you please talk to me as soon as you can? Or when you have a chance, right? That's going to be much more useful. And especially if you have a lot of acronyms in the type of work that you do, like if you're an engineer or if you are working with IT, that kind of thing, you want to make sure that you are you want to make sure that you are using less of those terms and spelling out what they mean, right? Because a lot of times, especially if you're sending an email to someone that is not in your department, they won't know what you're talking about. So very good. Okay. Oh, and I did see the question there, acronym or contractions. Yes. So contractions are like don't and I've, right? It has that little apostrophe over the top. That's a great question. Let's see if I have an acronym written out here. I don't know that I do. But an acronym is going to be a little, it'll have a little contraction over the top, right? Like this one, like don't. That's a contraction of do not. Great question. Okay. And I believe that there is a Cambly Live lesson all about contractions as well, if you want to go back and take a look at that on the Cambly YouTube channel. Okay. So we talked about some of the do's and don'ts here, right, of our business English. So the most common and by far the easiest to talk about, because we don't know what type of job everyone's doing, is email, right? We do know everyone's going to write emails in business English, right? Everyone's going to write emails. So let's talk a little bit about emails. So in English, we have several common email introductions, okay? So when you're sending your email and the first thing you write in your email, right? We usually say something like, Dear Mr. Adams, okay? Or if you don't know who you're talking to, you can say, to whom it may concern, okay? That's very formal. But if you're sending an email to someone, say you're applying for a job, or you are asking a question to someone, but you don't know the person or who you're talking to, you can say, to whom it may concern, okay? You can always just say, dear Ms. or Mr. if you don't know who you're talking to as well, right? We know we're going to be sending it to someone, so you can say, dear Ms. or Mr., and then start your email, okay? If you do know the person very well, right, you can do an informal one and say, John, okay? You can just start your email with John because that's the first name of the person. Exactly, hi, John. You can start with hi, John. That's exactly right. Or we can say, dear Chris, okay? So this is a more informal, but it's still more formal than the first one, like, hi, John, or John, right? This is the most common, right? Dear Chris, or dear Mr. Adams. Those are the most common. Dear Greg, right? Exactly. So that is the most common one. But these are all very common email introductions, and it has any type you want, right? You can have very formal, to whom it may concern, or dear Ms. or Mr., or you can do more informal, John, or hi, John, right? I like that one a lot. I'm going to put that on there because that's also very common, right? You can just say, hi, John. And from there, right, that is very common. We'll just say, hi, John, and start the email after that. So great suggestion. Okay. So these are our very common email introductions, okay? We got formal, informal. So we'll go ahead and put that over here, okay? So common email introductions. So we also have very common ways that we start emails, okay? Very common ways to start an email. So first, you can do a very formal way, right? We can say, hello, my name is Greg. I'm writing you because, right? Why are we writing them? We always want to state, especially at the beginning of an email, if we don't know the person, we want to introduce ourselves. Hello, my name is Greg, right? And you want to say why you're writing them, because a lot of people get a lot of emails. I'm sure all of you get lots of emails, and especially in English writing, business English, people, if they don't know what the email's about, they will just ignore it, right? It's easy to ignore an email, but if you say right away, introduce yourself and say why you're writing, they're much more likely to answer, okay? So this one might be something like, to whom it may concern. Hello, my name is Greg. I am writing because I have a question, or I need some information, right? So that's gonna be very common. Okay, another one is, you could start, dear Chris, I hope this email finds you well, right? I hope this email finds you well is also very common. You can start with some sort of, kind introduction, hoping, everyone's doing well. So, right, I hope this email finds you well, or I hope you are doing great. That kind of thing is usually very common in business English, is to give them some sort of kind introduction. Another one that people do often is acknowledging a holiday or event. So if it is a holiday, right, you could say, I hope you had a great holiday weekend, or I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. So Thanksgiving was just happened here in America, a very common holiday that people are not at work for, right? They have the day off usually for that. So coming back in, you can say, hello, happy Thanksgiving, or I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. That's very common, right? Acknowledging an event. It's a very common and easier way to introduce your email, okay? Rather than starting directly into what you want. So you do want to be direct and concise, but with an email, we often begin with something that is a little bit more indirect and ease into the email, okay? And then last, right, we can state a known connection. So if you know something about this person, right, or someone who knows that person, you can start with that, like, hello, my name is Greg. I got your information from Chris, right? We can say that, right? I got your information from Chris, and that is stating a known connection. and very common, especially in English, like American English. If you know someone, they're gonna be much more likely to talk to you, right? If you know the person. So that's why we state a known connection is very common. Okay. So let's put that one up there. So that's starting an email. So we have our introductions. We have how we start an email. So let's talk about our sign-offs real quick. So a sign-off, right, is how we end our email. Not in the words, but who it's from. So this is very common, right? We sign off with sincerely, okay? Sincerely, Greg. You write your whole email and you say, sincerely, Greg. Or thank you, right? Because thank you, Greg. That's very common, right? This is formal. This is somewhat formal. Best, right? It's very informal, but also very common, right? You just write best with a comma and then your name, right? Best, Greg, okay? Or regards, this is very formal. Or cheers, very informal, okay? So these are all common sign-offs, right? Sincerely, thank you, best, but they range in their formalities. Sincerely and regards are far more formal, and you should sign off your emails with these, or best regards. Yeah, you could say best regards. That is far more, if you don't know the person, or if it is someone maybe outside of your very common work, you would say sincerely or regards, okay? Because you want to make sure that you're being very much more formal with business English, especially someone you don't know. If you know the person really well, you can say thank you or best or cheers and then your name. Sometimes if it's very informal, what you will just do sometimes is you'll put a little dash and you'll just put your name. And you'll just sign off that way. And you'll just say Greg at the bottom of the email. However, that's the most informal and usually only used if you have been talking with the person for a while or you're just sending emails back and forth. So if you generally in the first email you send to someone, you will always have a sign off. If you've emailed the person a couple of times and you're in the email thread, you don't necessarily need to do a sign off, or an introduction. So if you've been emailing them for a while, no introduction, no sign off. But if it's your first time in business English, we will always do a sign off and always do an introduction because that's just that's the formalities of how we write in business English. So make sure you know when you're emailing the person, who you're emailing, and make sure you know how you're setting it up. Okay, that's all very important. And I see on there faithfully. Yeah, you can say faithfully. Absolutely. That's not a very common one, but that's definitely one that can be used as a sign off. Okay, we'll put this up a little bit higher so we can see that. All right. So now the body of your email, right? The start of your email, that will change, right? This will change depending on when you're writing, okay, and who you're writing to. That's why it's always important to know your audience. So let's look at an example of an email. Okay, so if we have, right, dear Ms. Holt, okay, so we're right in the middle, right? It's informal, it's not formal, but it's not informal, right? We know this person, dear Ms. Holt, okay? Say, I hope this email finds you well. So we start with something, I hope they're finding them well, okay? I need the fourth quarter revenue to finish my report. Will you please send me the numbers as soon as you can? Okay? Will you please send me the numbers as soon as you can? Thank you, Greg. So this is a much more formal email, right? You're asking for something from someone. So we start quickly though, right? We start with something a little bit softer, right? I hope this email finds you well. We don't just say, dear Ms. Holt, I need the fourth quarter numbers, okay? Because we want to make sure that we're being a little bit gentler as we start in for an ask, especially when we're asking for something from someone, okay? And we have our thank you, right? We have our sign off. We could have just said sincerely or regards, right? But since we're asking for something, we generally end with thank you because we're thanking them for whatever it is they're hopefully going to be giving us in the future. So introduction, we have our nice start, and then we have our end. Thank you. All right. So if we have a little bit of a less formal email, we may say something like, John, start with John. Is the meeting still on for today? I have the presentation slides. Best, Greg. This is a very informal email. We're starting with the person's name. We're just starting with John, right? We have best, right? We're signing off with just our easy name, and we start immediately into the question. So this is likely someone that we work with a lot, and likely someone that we're always doing work with. Okay, this makes it's much more informal. Okay, very good. So this is an informal email versus our much more formal email. But notice both of them are concise and they're to the point. We don't have passive voice. We're making it very easy to read, and we need to proofread. Okay, make sure we always proofread. So let's try something. All right, if we have a person we're writing an email to, okay, and their name is Seth Thomas. Okay, if we're writing an email to Seth Thomas, what is the formal way? How would you start, right? How would we introduce a formal email to Seth Thomas? How would we start that? How would we write a formal email? How would we start a formal email? What is our introduction? Let's see. So we know the person, right? We know their name. We know their name is Seth Thomas. So how would we start that? Okay, good. So we have dear Seth Thomas. Okay. So we generally, right? We wouldn't use their first name to begin with, right? So dear Mr. Thomas. Yes, dear Mr. Thomas. Yeah. So we would dear Mr. Thomas. That's right. That's our formal way, right? We would say dear Mr. Thomas. Okay, dear Mr. Thomas. Because we know who they are, right? And we would just say Mr. Thomas. Very good, very good. So because we don't want to use their first name too often, because that's generally more informal. So how would we write an informal way though? So if we know who they are, how would we write an informal introduction? What would we say for an informal introduction here? Seth Thomas. It's informal. We know them. Maybe we've emailed them a couple of times. Good. Yes. Dear Seth. Okay. So this is a little bit confusing because their first name is Seth and their last name is Thomas, right? So, and especially American Business English, we would just use the first name. I see that's confusing though, because Thomas is usually a first name as well, but sometimes it's a last name. It's a very common last name. So we would say, right? We would say, dear Seth, or hi Seth. Very good. Dear Seth or hi Seth. Very good. Very good. So we're just going to be much more informal here. Much more informal. We're going to just use their first name, or say hi, or say dear, but with their first name. Very good. And yes, so it's confusing. A lot of times in especially in the United States, we have first names, last names is what we call them. So they have a last name that sounds like a first name. Very good. Okay. So let's try another one. Let's say we're sending an email. We don't know who. We don't know who we're sending an email to because we don't know who's receiving it. We know why we're sending the email, but let's say we're sending an email maybe asking if they have job openings, right? Maybe we're seeing because we want to get a new job. So we know we're sending it to the Human Resources Department, okay? We know we're sending it to the Human Resources Department, but we don't know who is going to get it. How would we start this email? How would we start this email if we don't know who it is going to? Over here, how would we start this? Because unlike the last one, right, we knew the person's name was Seth. We knew the person's name was Seth. but we don't know who this is going to. But we want to make sure it's nice and polite because we want a job, right? We were hoping to get a job. So good. To whom it may concern. Very good. That's what I'm seeing. To whom it may concern. So that's very good. That's exactly right. Because we want to make sure we don't know who, but we know it's concerning someone, right? To whom it may concern. Or we could say, dear Mr. or Ms., right? Dear Mr. or Ms. We don't know who it is, and we know someone's going to get it. Or since we know we're sending it to an HR department, we could say, dear HR department, or dear Human Resources. Very good. Most common is to whom it may concern, right? Because we know that it's going to someone, right? We want to make sure that we're still being polite and kind in our email introduction. Very good. Okay, so this is to whom it may concern. Or dear Ms. or Miss. Very good. Okay, so remember, with your introductions, and especially with your sign-offs, make sure if you, like, so for this one, right, if we're sending it to HR department, we would want to say sincerely or regards, right? That's what we would want to say at the very end. We would be much more formal about it. All right, so let's take a look again at an email, right? I talked about proofreading, and I want to make sure we all know proofreading is so important. So let's take a look at this email, and let's look at some of the things we can change about this email. So let's first read it, okay? I am writing to discuss the meeting last Friday. We talked about getting new desks for the 3rd floor. I have 2 options and need your opinion. Which to pick? Please look at the attached and let me know. My deepest thank you, Greg. Okay, so this email conveys information, right? We know what it's about, but there's several errors in this email. There's several errors in this email. So can anyone give me an example of one of the errors? What's one of the errors you see in this email? How can we make this email better? Answer that question. Yes, you can start with to a hiring manager. Good question. All right, good. So I'm saying first one, Friday, right? Friday. This needs to be capitalized, right? We don't have a capital F there, right? That's an easy mistake that'll happen. Getting, right? Getting is missing a G. Getting is missing a G. Very good. Okay, we got to make sure these are very easy questions, right? And getting is usually a slang term, right? And we don't want to use slang in our business emails. Very good. So make sure we capitalize Friday. Make sure we add the G. Okay. So and what else did we have? All right, attached. Yes, we're missing a T here, right? We're missing a T and attached. Right? A very easy mistake that we can make, especially when we're typing or typing quickly. Yes, no introduction. Yes, very good. Right? No introduction. This is clearly not an email that we sent multiple times. So we need an introduction here. Very good. Intro. We need an introduction here. Very good. Okay. Which word should be capitalized? Okay, well, we always need to make sure that our proper nouns, right, or Friday or September, things like that, those are always capitalized, and always the first letter or the first word after a period. That's always got to be capitalized. Okay, and someone's name. Someone's name is always capitalized. All right. So let's see. Is there anything else we have here? Well, my deepest thank you, right? It's a little bit over the top, right? It's a little bit over the top. We don't want to say my deepest thank yous because this is just a workplace email, right? We want to just say thank you or much appreciated, something like that. But my deepest thank you is too much. It would seem a little bit odd in a business email like this. Okay, so let's see. Is there anything else we have here, right? I'm writing to discuss the meeting last Friday. Capitalize the Friday. We talked about getting new desks for the 3rd floor. All right, we also need a period here, right? We need a period here because this, right, it's the end of a sentence. It's the end of a sentence. Very good. And then I have 2 options and need your opinion which one to pick, okay? That's a fine sentence. There's nothing wrong with that one, right? We could probably make it shorter, but there's nothing wrong with that, okay? And then please look at the attached, right? And let me know. Very good, okay? And then we could say thank you at the end, right? We could say thank you. That's easy, right? And we could say thank you or thanking you. That's perfectly fine. Yep, that's what we want to say here. But my deepest thank you is too much. Good. Yes, full stop. We have a full stop here. We got to make sure that we're putting our full stops in there. Okay. So this is an example, right, of just some of the mistakes or little grammatical errors that we have to be looking for, right? Punctuation's easy, capitalization, and misspelled words. Those are some of the most common and easy mistakes to do, especially when you're writing in a language that is not your first language. So it's important to make sure we have introductions, good exits, right, and knowing why. Okay, good job, everyone. Good job. So let's go real quick and talk about, remember, right, we are in our business writing, we're going to have three main types: formal work product, our most common email, and our chat applications, right? These are all our formal or our most common ones. We're going to have our do's, right? Know our audience, know our topic, be concise, make it easy to read, right? Proofread it, but we're going to avoid our figurative language, avoid passive voice, avoid long run-on sentences, and avoid our jargon. All right. So thank you so much for joining me today, learning a little bit about business English. I hope that it was helpful for you. I hope that you're learning a little bit about writing. If you are new to Cambly, we do have a promo code. We have a Go Live. You can use up to 36% off of all of our subscriptions here on Cambly. There's tutors to talk with you every minute a day, morning, noon, or night. Doesn't matter what time it is. There's someone available. There's tutors just like me, and they can help you with whether you just started English or whether you've been doing English for years and years and you're getting ready to take a big test. So I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. I enjoyed talking with all of you. If you want to go back and rewatch this one or watch any of our other videos, it'll be on the Cambly YouTube channel after this lesson's over. So thank you so much, and have a great day, have a great evening, have a great morning, wherever it is where you're from. Thank you.